Hello everyone and welcome to yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host Tony and I hope you are having amazing Fridays and that they're going to get even better as you code along with me, as you see me code, as you share in the chat about your exciting projects. Tell me everything. Tell me what you've been up to, what we've been up to. In the new series that we're doing here is a new SvelteKit app that starts as a portfolio or marketing site. That's a very nice entry-level project. If you don't know much about web dev, maybe if you know nothing about web dev, I do strongly recommend starting from that series. We don't go into JavaScript and TypeScript fundamentals, but I think there's enough information on the internet to get around those things. So I'll say again, slide into people's DMs, offer to make them portfolio marketing sites, gift a portfolio site to one of your friends if you can't find a real client, and that will like 10x to say a keyword thing, like a squirrely, weaselly LinkedIn line. Anyway, we're not doing that stuff today. I will recommend sliding people's DMs. That's a great idea. Gift a portfolio set to somebody else. You're going to learn so much. Like, I'm not going to say whether it's going to be 10x what you know now, 100x, whatever else. You're going to learn a lot. Code along with me, ask in the Discord, questions in the comments anywhere, and you will grow a lot. So we've done that series, and then this code base, maybe I'll switch to the desktop view as well. We've extended into this new app, which is going to be talking to a database. So already this app is not dealing just with static data. It is hitting an API to handle the email list, mailing list sign up process. And today we're going to be using a database and reading data from databases, writing stuff to databases. And if you can hit APIs and work with databases, that's the job. You can be a software engineer in any company, web dev for sure, web software engineer in any company. I guarantee that. That's the job. Maybe it will be hard to get through the interview process because there you may be asked things that aren't applicable in the day-to-day job, and in real life maybe they'll ask you to like map or reduce things like pub trivia type of JavaScript questions. But in reality, fetch some data, render it on the screen, hit some APIs. That's it. That's the job. And if you've got opinions about databases, about tools like SvelteKit, about Turso, those options, then I will really like to have you as a teammate as well, because no one can know everything. So if other colleagues have familiarity with all the new tech that's coming around, all the better. Like more opinions, better product in the end, as we make more educated choices and decisions. Let me know if this is interesting for you, if it is related to what you're working with, to what you want to do. We will be going with Turso as the platform where we'll be deploying our databases, and it's going to be SQLite. We've done Supabase and Postgres before, but there are a few reasons to go with SQLite. One of them being that it's so easy, much easier than pretty much anything to set up to run locally. And as you're trying to learn and work your way up to more and more complicated things, it's a great gateway, a great entry point. And realistically, for most projects, that's going to be all you need. Like, you may want to use for Postgres if you want to do stuff like train LLMs, like doing vector search, that sort of thing. Maybe that will give you an edge there versus an SQLite database. But in reality, most apps on iPhones just use an SQLite database, and iPhones feel fast to use. Apps on iPhones feel fast to use. It can work. Turso has quite a few tricks as well to make those database reads and writes feel fast and look fast, which we will get into much later, because now it's the fundamental thing. I just want to have some data in a database that my client is able to edit, or I'm able to edit nicely without a code deployment, and I want to read it and render it. Don't worry about performance too much. Like by default, with the tools we're using, you're going to get good performance anyway without fretting too much about it. And we'll even, like we're already deploying this on the edge, we'll be deploying the databases on the edge as well. We'll have replica databases there. And, 10 years ago, if you told me that you have an infrastructure where you are deploying all around the world and your users get the request fulfilled by data centers closest to them, I'd be like, amazing. Like, how many millions should we be paying you to get that infrastructure going in our company as well? But now it's doable. It's easier. We can even do it today. I feel like I should mention again that all of these things are not affiliated with anything. I mentioned that I have very kind words to say about Superbase, for example. It solves a lot of problems. Very, very good tool to use. For this one, we're going Turso, which is not affiliated with me as well, because I think it's the best solution to this problem. And if there are things that I don't quite like about them, the good thing with not being affiliated is that I can raise them. I can tell you that maybe you want to go for that, maybe you want to go for this. Another thing with SQLite databases in general, since they are so easy to run locally, they're quite easy to run in your test environments as well. Even for your unit tests, it is fast enough to spin up a new SQLite database and run your unit tests there, or like integration, more unit to integration type tests, which is very exciting. We'll be covering more about testing today as well. So not affiliated with anything, but I have made this. So if you want to support the show, if you want to support these streams, and most importantly, get the code yourself. So I will again recommend you code along with me, you build your own projects, you sell them. But if you want the end product as well, if you just want the code in the end, if you want to compare and contrast, if you want some updates, consider joining up with Johnnify Premium. People in the Discord are loving it. We have a few happy clients, and I'm always looking for feedback on what we should be covering next. And these people get the priority because they're actually using the stuff that I'm building here, and therefore are more able to give me feedback, if that makes sense. So that's the quick sell for this. I think we do have a big agenda for today. We won't be getting to Turso until the fourth step, or fourth step. We'll be doing some UI first, which I know everybody loves when I get stuck doing CSS. I love CSS. I love getting into CSS rabbit holes, but it should be fast. And then we're going to be using Drizzle as the ORM. That's important to mention. So the way we'll be interfacing with the database is through a library called Drizzle, which I've heard great things about for maybe the past year, maybe 2 years. But I have been using a lot quite recently. Johnnify and Johnnify Premium, those run on Drizzle with Turso as well. And the great thing about it as well is that it works with a lot of types of databases, including SQLite, including Postgres. So you could do something that people say is controversial and have your tests use an SQLite database, and then for production you switch to Postgres if you're using something like an ORM like Drizzle that's as good as Drizzle. There are some complications there that we won't be getting into. Suffice it to say, you don't want to do your database operations simply by hand, because you will do mistakes. You will get hacked. If you're not familiar with how things should work, prepare statements, there will be problems there. N+1 problems. Drizzle should take care of most of that for you, and we'll be saying what Drizzle is doing behind the scenes as well, because it is important to learn what the libraries you're using are doing, even though you don't want to do it by hand necessarily. Right, so consider the agenda described. Let's get into it. So in the description, you can find links to all these projects that we've been building. Click around, have fun, let me know how they work, how you like them as well. On this one, we also have it running locally, and the idea is to have a page where we have a table that has loot that you can find in your tabletop game that you're running. So you're a dungeon master and you're looking for inspiration for your players. What's the cool loot that they should be getting? You have your monster manual, you have your dungeon master guide. You want more unique loot to grab for your players, and that's where the Loot Goblin app comes in. And we're using Tailwind CSS and Daisy UI for this project. So I think I'll be basing the table that we're going to be rendering here on this example that they've got, like, because this is like too boring. This is something that you'd actually see in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and we just want like more space, more drawings, more stuff. So let's first establish a new route, because maybe we don't want the table to just be on the front page. This app can do many things. Maybe it will have a chat interface where you describe your party and your situation, and then it gives you some options in a card style, like you select one of them, elaborate. It's gonna be fun. For the main page, we'll just keep the sign up here and maybe link out to one of our big features. One of our big features is the one we're building today. This is gonna be the loot table. There is not view there. Oh, should have updated this for sure. But how do we create new routes in SvelteKit? We've been through this before. This is a quick sanity check. Do you remember? Check yourself. We need to make the path that the user is going to in our app, so loot, be reflected in our source routes directory. So the index route is just on the routes directory. The about route that we've done is on the about directory. And since we want something on /loot, we need to create a loot directory. And usually I just create like a plus page and a plus server.ts. But for now, let's just copy and paste from elsewhere. From this page, doesn't really matter. So let's copy this one, and we just want the page title, and we want to say loot, and not render any components here, and unplug and replug my keyboard. I don't know what the name of this page should actually be. Loot tables, why not? And in here is where we want like the UI, like a section that has there a lot of loot here. And maybe we have been doing kinda BDD so far. We didn't do this time, but just as a reminder, we do have navigation tests, and we should be checking now that we have like a loot page. Navigate to the loot page. You should find the link that says loot, and then once you click it, you should be on a page that has a title of loot and a heading of loot. And in fact, if we are to run this test now, it's not going to work. Did it? How did you find this? Because we've pre-done it? I guess so. We didn't actually read it, but what did it click? That's my question. Get by role link named loot. I guess it found like the loot goblin one, and the main page also says loot goblin, so it just stayed on the main page. That's unfortunate. So let's make this fail. Never trust a test you haven't seen fail. All right, so it's not going there. And also, it seems like we have a problem early on where we try to find the link that just says loot, but we want this to be explicit. So maybe strict is an option we can pass here. Let's find it out. So many area roles. So by default, it's exact Anyway, let's solve the problem first. So in the header, I now want to add a loot tables link. Yeah, so let's say loot tables maybe. Maybe that's gonna make this not a problem. So now I want to find the loot tables link. And once we click it, if we make this actually get you to loot, which we have, we should make it all the way there. Let's see. Aha, so we forgot to add the meta attributes. If you remember, our layout takes care of every page having some sensible default meta attributes for when you share on like WhatsApp and that sort of thing. But we can add specific ones using our server load methods. So on the about page, we do have a server load method that just returns so meta information. So let's copy paste that one and let's call this loot tables. And say find explore amazing to inspire talents their players. Whether we're working at the SEO offline. So now, with the way we've magically set up things, the metadata should be correct and we won't get stuck here. Let's see. Did I call it loot tables or did I call it loot? Ah, so this one should be parcel, of course. This one should be parcel. This throws me off that I guess the title needs to be exact unless the user executes. All right, so this passed, but remember, this is mobile first design. Well, at least it's the responsive design. I don't know if it's mobile first. Technically it is, but now we've created a desktop version. First, we can copy the same test. This test only runs on the Chrome and Firefox browsers, desktop browsers. But we also have the mobile test. And the thing with mobile test is that we don't have any links whatsoever unless you open the sidebar. So if we just add essentially the same test that we have before for desktop, it's not going to work because we have forgotten to add the loot tables link here on our side nav, our nifty side nav. So let's do that. Now that we've added it, after it times out, it waits for like 5 seconds to see if it can find it. Now we should make it all the way. Oh, but we need to open the menu again. Forgot about that. So let's add this here. We auto close the menu the moment you navigate. So you need to open it again. Indeed, you can see that we click and we navigate. All right, so we do have this new page, all nice and tested, cross browsers. You can see them run all the tests against various different browsers here. What do I want to do here? Just let's tree. That's the command. Bam. Confidence. And next, we finally want some UI. So we've added this route. Let's hardcode a loot table. So let's copy this wholesale. And in our loot page here, this, let's extract this tag component immediately. Table.svelte, paste this in. We won't even look at it. We'll just render it and see what we get. Our nice preview on the left. Interesting. I guess these are like local links. And you can see that it's responsive, like you get the horizontal scroll bar, like it's not your whole site that gets destroyed by this kind of overflowing. It looks okay. And now we can worry about how this looks. So this is a section, they're doing the overflow X auto for this thing. Sure. Table of class table. Sure. What are we gonna have there? So I went ahead and wrote some hard-coded loot just to not get into the rabbit hole here of spending like ages trying to figure out some good loot for us. They have a name, they have a setting, because I was thinking fantasy like Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings style, or sci-fi like Mass Effect, like a space adventure like Knights of the Republic, something like that. And Photon Blade, kind of like a lightsaber, but not really. Don't say that out loud. Laser sword. Anyway, they have name, setting, hook, mechanics, that's so many. Aesthetics, lore, risk, tags. Many things. Let's just copy all of them, why not? And I guess everyone we need to encase in a T8. Maybe at some point in the future we'll use some tech like tan stack tables or that sort of thing, but I don't particularly see the point. We can do it ourselves. And checkbox select all. We won't be selecting anything, so we don't need that one. And then we'll definitely not have a checkbox here. So each row is something we can just delete every other row. Oh, and interesting enough, they are repeating the head columns at the end. I don't think we'll do that. Maybe we'll have like a sticky head. Maybe that would be fun than having a footer. Don't like this. Sure, so just one row for now. And what else did we like from this design? What did we not like? I guess everything will be there. Did I copy this table when actually we're gonna have a table like this? I guess. Now let's see that we'll have like a little avatar here. Oof, relative. So it feels like here is an avatar. Do we want an avatar? Maybe not. We have like a mask. Maybe Maybe just give it like a BG accent or whatever. And then we'll put in an icon, something nice. And then will be something. Sure. Now the settings will be something too. The hook will be a lot of text. No buttons for now. So what do we want? Mechanics highlight. Yeah, blah blah. Maybe that's where the icon comes in. Maybe not. That's my editor tries to help, and yet it fails. Right, so mechanics highlight. My reason for this is that every cool loot has a cool name for sure. The setting is whether you are like fantasy or sci-fi. Maybe it could be like something specific, like Final Fantasy or whatever. No affiliations with Square Enix. The hook, so something to tell your players, players either verbatim or hint to this, or why is this cool? Besides its cool name, it's this is the hook. This is what makes this loot cool, and you want it, or you're glad you just got it. Mechanics highlight, again, I guess that's maybe the hook again. So let me know if you have other GM advice of what makes loot cool. Then the aesthetics, of course, one of the ways things look cool is when they look cool. Literally, the lore, like Baldur's Gate 3, infamous for having underwear lore with all the main characters, amazing. The risk, so again, maybe ties into the hook as well. Sometimes it's more fun when there is a risk reward mechanic with the items you use. So this does this, but watch out because this may happen. And then some tags, if you want to be like, you know, magic, not magic, mundane, like, I don't know, we'll see some examples, I'm sure. It could be like item level. I wouldn't want to tie like price because it depends on your setting. But basically, this is what we'll be working with here. Now it's time to make this data a bit more dynamic by using hard-coded data as a first stage. So if you remember, last time we used an in-memory mailing list service. And today we are going to do the same. Start with a in-memory loot table service, and then upgrade to use SQLite and Turso. Or Drizzle, I guess. We'll see how we'll call it. So this thing needs to get some loot. This table is going to be taking some loot. How will we do that? In our hooks, for example, we're saying that our mailing list repo is the recent mailing list. It used to be an in-memory mailing list. And similarly, we want to put in the locals a loot repo. And that one we're going to create right now. So we have our lib server, because usually you have API keys that you don't want to leak. Here, repos, loot, I've created this right before the stream. It has all my hard-coded loot. Here, we want the interface that every one of our implementations will need to be fulfilling. So let's call it loot repo interface. But yes, and let's see, trying to keep things consistent. Let's double check what we did here. Not much. So let's copy paste this. Didn't put repo in the name. Loot interface. I'll keep it loot repo. And what do we want? For now, all we want is a get all with no parameters. Again, using interfaces like this is a great way to extend your app at some point and make sure you broke nothing. So at some point, maybe get all will be getting some parameters like the page you're on, what you want to filter, that sort of thing. Yeah, but for now, we want to get nothing. We want to get no parameters, to pass no parameters, no arguments here. And we want to return loot. And loot, another thing I like with interfaces is that I can just put the types here and I'm happy. Or else I need to have like a lib_types.ts file that has like all sorts of random types. Not sure. So each loot should be looking like everything we pasted before, like this. With this, and everything is a string, I guess. Maybe tags is going to be an array of strings, but we'll see. Let's just say string for now. And so this one will asynchronously return an array of loot. Get all returns an array of loot. And in the future, you can have like, find by ID, get, whatever. And for now, this is it. I guess these don't have IDs. Anyway, we can expand it later. It's the beauty of interfaces. So we can go to our app d.ts and say that we also have a loot repo which implements the loot repo interface. But I wish SvelteKit could tell me that none of my handles is actually putting the thing I'm expecting to the locals. But it doesn't, so we just need to remember to do it. We need to say here that the loot repo is going to be not the new recent mailing list. We need a different client. We need a different repo for this, but we don't have any. So let's create one. Let's say in memory loot repo. Export a class here. Got it. And then this returns our hard-coded loot. What is this? I think we can just import it from the file I created. And it's happy. It's typed correctly. And now in our hooks file, we can say that this is the new in memory loot repo, new.up. Happy there. What does this mean? This means that, well, first let's go back to our loot table and say in a script tag it may be simplest to say that this takes loot from props, and we can type its own props to be loot, an array of loot, not same interface here. And now I guess we'll need to do empty states at some point. We'll be saying that for its loot as item, sir, we're gonna have a row. That's gonna crash because we don't pass anything here, and we can actually use the item or destructure it immediately and say that we're going to be using all these things. Yeah, so the things. And the name is going to be here. Maybe make that 8.3 or something. What's this supposed to be? Setting. The setting. The hook. The mechanics highlight. They're amazing friends. If you use a library like Tanstack table, you can kinda more easily rearrange the columns, but I'm just not sure. I'm not convinced whether it's less or more work. Also, at this point, I can just do this because I wisely named them, left them like this. Sure. So long as we manage to give this table correctly the loot, then it's gonna magically appear on the left, and everyone will be impressed. So how do we do that? This needs some loot. Where does it get it? Where will it be dropped? It is indeed, if you're playing along with home, in the page.server.ts. Instead of only returning the metadata, we want to be returning some loot. How do we get that? Well, we can get the locals, because SvelteKit passes the locals to every load method. And in the locals, we will find the loot repo, and we can get all and even await it if we don't want to do streaming here. Maybe we'll do streaming later, actually. But like some skeleton UI, that'd be cool. And now it will be available in the UI. The UI page. Is it this one? Yeah. So here we'll be able to pass we need the structure data from the props. This gets magically typed for us by SvelteKit. In theory. Guess not now. Maybe it just needs a save. We'll find out. Data loot. It knows. It did know. So bam, you save and you've got everything you've ever wanted here. Bam. Yeah, I'll need to do some UI work to make this a bit more pleasant. Like everything should be like a bit wider because that's like unreadable. We will need some CSS to make the min characters, the minimum amount of characters to be larger than like 10 or whatever we've got here. But it looks nice, doesn't it? It looks like something. Just to break things up. Because we don't have like a real avatar. Let's do a cheeky conditional here. say if the setting is fantasy, let's make it teal. Let's make it green. Okay, slightly different, not that different. Is the secondary any different? Not really. Anyway, slight difference. And let's put this setting at the end or before the tags. Just looks a bit nicer. And I think this affects how big every column is going to be. So min 8's 60 characters. Does that do anything? Min width even? Yeah, that definitely does something. So at least 30 characters, let's say, for all of these guys. For the setting. A nice wizard there. Laser. Looks great. All right, so these are nice things to test as well. UI style, you can get really bespoke and test whether you're getting the correct icons, but we'll do that eventually. For now, I think we've proven that we have worked with hard-coded data. If anyone has any ideas, it's like another loot item to add, just to prove that we can do it. Let's do another sci-fi one. What's cool sci-fi thing and the gravity field? Have any boots here? No. Not a writer, so I won't be adding too much. Let's do everything. So you can see that we've added this one. Indeed, it's at the end. Like, as I was doing my copy paste, it changed. We can add it anywhere and it will appear. Proven that this is hard-coded, but it's hard-coded our way. It's not hard-coded in the UI. Without something like a modern framework, or even like a framework from the past 10, 15, 20 years, you may be tempted to do something like what today's UI is doing, I guess, in the UI of this, which is they literally write every row by hand, like all rows, they write them by hand. You could do that. You want to deliver something to your client, they have like 4 projects, whatever. You can do that, but you shouldn't. Nowadays, you should be using loops like this. Write something once and then it gets repeated an infinite amount of times, so long as you have items. So you don't have to do as much of a copy change when your clients want to add stuff. And of course, especially helpful when you want to mess with design. So you just mess with the design once here and it will apply to every row. While if you had copy pasted this like 20 times, then you'd need to make this change 20 times. This could be a good point to a good place to do a snippet as well, but we'd only be doing it for fun. Because, you know, I like this. I don't think it'd be more readable if this was a Svelte 5 snippet. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Let's open it here. Or else, I think I will have like a sip of coffee and we actually get into database stuff. Light mode looks decent. All right, hard-coded loot table, easy time for databases. Turso, I've talked about it before. Johnnify runs on Turso now. Other projects run on Supabase. Older projects run on Firebase. Some of them run on custom Postgres databases that deployed everywhere in the world. Usually, I guess, some AWS. What do they call them? DynamoDBs. It doesn't really matter. Today we're doing Turso, and it's going to be easier than you think. If you think it's going to be like medium to hard, definitely easier than you think. If it's going to be a breeze, if you think it's going to be a breeze, you are correct. That's how easy it's going to be. But first, how do you spin up a local SQLite database? They have, Turso themselves are telling you that you can just create a client like this to point to a local file, then it's gonna just work. But with Turso CLI, we can actually have one running for us locally that those have some of the nice extensions that they've added to libSQL, such as JSON and full text search. I don't think we'll be using JSON here, but will likely, I'll say likely, not more than likely, we will likely be using full text search in the future. Probably the next episode in this series is going to be search and pagination yet again to filter through all this data, allow the users to actually search for stuff and get fewer results if they need to. In which case, we will be using the full text search feature. And for that, I think it's best to just have the Turso local SQLite running. And I have installed the Turso CLI already. So all we need to do is go to the terminal. And you may think it's run Turso dev, but that is going to just run it in memory. So all data will be lost. So we'll actually be adding the option to persist changes in a file. So if we restart the database, it's gonna read from that file and keep the items that we had. They won't be lost. For tests, we'll probably be running things in memory. But for us, this is not magic. You can name this file anything you want, so long as the extension is .tb, I guess. But follow conventions, call it localtb. It's fine. Just make sure that it's not committed to your version control. So these things, the localtb stuff, you don't want to commit into your version control for sure. So let's update our git ignore here. Say that anything with localtb, just don't do it, don't commit it. You could also put it in a different directory, like, I don't know, db/something, or and then you ignore everything there, but we'll see. For now, let's say that the file is here. Maybe it may be easier to clean and just remove that directory. Maybe we'll actually do that. Let's see. I try to exit out and say update in the latest version. Interesting. As you exit, it's updating the CLI tool. That's very interesting. I think most people are impatient and just press to exit again. So let's never say that. So should we try to go into the db local db directory? We need to create a directory first. Yeah. So long as you have created a directory, everything's going to be fine. You can delete those things. And now, if you want to quickly reset your database, you just know to delete your db directory. You can call it local db. I don't know, something that makes sense to you. Cool. Instead of remembering all of this and what we actually named and put our database in, we can have a script for this. We can call it devdb, I guess. Point here. And then we can dev db. I'm just gonna start the database again. We can combine it with our regular dev server. Maybe we will in the future. I'm not going to do it just now. What else do I want to do? My question is, the Turso CLI, is it available as an npm package? Because I think it's not. Yeah, so even though it's in our packagization, we need to remember to have the CLI available in that environment if you want to run it. Which is fair enough. You can just run this in your GitHub action or whatever, and it will be available. Anyway, that's by the by. If you do have the Turso CLI available, it is our dev database script is gonna run. Cool. So we run the script. We have a database listening. Maybe I'll do it in the same window actually. Maybe here. Not the test. All right. Database, SQLite database running with a Turso CLI. Good. think that's all I want to do with this section. Now, to talk to the database, and we'll be doing Drizzle stuff. We'll be using Drizzle to talk to this database. They have an example specifically for Turso, so it should go smoothly. So what I like, I will be adding everything as a dev dependency indeed. So to the terminal, and they also want a DrizzleKit, which is an interface for a database. Kind of handy for some handy things for migrations, seeing it in our database, stuff we're gonna need. Our app is only gonna be using these two. Cool. So now we need a file that does this. Let's think about it. We'll definitely be putting it somewhere in lib server, just for the extra protection that we're not going to be leaking environment variables. But should just be like just here, just db.ts. Sure, why not? And then we can just export the database. And then we're good. But both the database URL and the auth token should be dynamic. So what I'm gonna do off screen is open this m.local. I guess in our test we can also say what we're gonna do here. So we're gonna are these good names? I think they're good names. So locally, actually, the database URL is going to be the same. So in our tests, we are indeed going to use the same thing. It's going to be run on this port. If you're using an app that is also running on 8080, which was common, I think Laravel runs on this, I'm not sure. Anyway, you may want to run it in a different port. And the auth token is nothing, not defined. To connect to the local database, you don't need an auth token. Great. So kind of quickly, let's go off screen and copy these two parameters, which are fine if they get leaked. But I do have things that shouldn't be in the .m.local. Great. And now, here where we create the client, we can say that we are bringing in as a static private environment variable the database URL and the database auth token. And we know that this is going to be like null, but it's fine to connect for connecting to the local database. We need to remember when we deploy to Vercel or when we talk to like a dev version of our Turso database to actually supply the auth token, which we will be in this episode. One of the cool things with Turso is that they're very generous with how many databases you can create. I think it's 500. Unlike Supabase, which I think now allows 2 projects, not sure, maybe 1 project, maybe a person can be in 2 accounts. They've recently changed those things. Which is great for like your one experimental project, but as a person who likes to experiment a lot, it's not enough. So I am paying for some of the projects that I have there. But with Turso, you can easily have lots and weekend projects, and most importantly, do the very realistic production, like working in a real company scenario, where you have a different database for dev, a different database for staging or preview, and another different one for production, or just dev and production. That's what I like to do, because your limit is 500, so that's like 250 projects you can try like that without paying anything. The bad thing about Turso, which is not bad, it just makes sense, is that the databases do go to sleep after 1 hour of inactivity, and to me that's like not production ready. You can't do stuff to wait for the database to wake up, have your app wait before the database wakes up, but you can get your project to production. But if you are gonna have real traffic, then you'd need to pay the money. Like you just get your monthly subscription and you're happy having your database go to sleep. I wouldn't go to production like that. So that's the bad thing about Turso, is that you need to pay for their great service. But their free tier is great for trying out new projects and seeing if you're actually going to follow through and have real traffic going through your website. So some quick thoughts there. We have this client. What can we do with this client? We can do anything we want. So I could swear there's like a Turso option that we can provide somewhere here, but it doesn't really matter. What we want is to use this client to fetch all our loot from the database. So you can imagine that much like we have the in-memory loot repo, we can have the DB loot repo, something like that, which will also be doing get all here, but we can bring in a constructor. I think that would actually make sense, and say that the local DB becomes the given DB. What is this? Who knows? We're gonna type it soon. What's this? Again, who knows? We're gonna type it soon. I guess it's gonna be whatever we get, whatever this is. This is like a Drizzle DB, I suppose. Yes. Drizzle does do some cool magic TypeScript stuff for us, so I think we'll find a way to define what this is. Should we just pass it in? Let's just pass it in for now. Like, we'll see if we'll pass in the client elsewhere, like in our hook. For now, let's just for the typing benefit, I want to start like this. And here we want to actually, from our loot table, find many, find all of them. But there is no loot table, as we can see, because we haven't defined any schemas, we haven't defined any tables in our database. How do you do that with Turso? They have a few ways to do it. I think the one I like is having one table per one different file per table, sometimes per concern. So when we do authentication in the future, I think we'll have a file that does the auth stuff, so an auth.ts file that is actually creating 4 tables, because it's going to be creating the users table and like the magic link codes table and the third-party GitHub providers, callback, challenges, whatever tables. So it's going to have more than one table, but in our case, we just want one file for one loot table, which we're going to be creating. So the question is, where do we put it? And I guess, is it some configuration here, manage schema here? Right, so they do have a few different ways to do this. One file, you can have every table there, that's fine. I do like starting like this. So DB schema makes sense. And I think by default, it is gonna look there on DB schema.ts, because I don't see a place where they say you need to update your drizzle.ts or whatever else. So maybe it will just work. Maybe this is just that awesome. So DB table, okay, that's where we have our actual DB. Maybe we should actually nest this in like data. So let's kill this, go back to our backup station, and say put this in DB data, local data. Don't really know. Naming things is hard, but it's making sense to me. Yeah, of course, I don't want to put this in DB data. Will that not be good? Not sure. I will follow the convention. So schema / loot.ts, and in here, I guess that's what they want. And in here we can have something like this. And we can say that the loot table is named loot. The cool thing with Drizzle is that even if there is some weird naming conventions in a database you're already working with, or like your auth implementation wants like a user table, but everything else in your app has like a drops table, like pluralizes things, you don't really care. You just use this variable, whatever you name this, is the thing that you use throughout your app. So how you actually name the table is irrelevant. So you could even name this, you know, whatever, something random. And it wouldn't really matter, but just not do it. It's a bit icky. But the idea is that I would love for this to be a unique ID. We'll have to look at how we're doing this. It is going to have a name. And I can imagine that by default, this means that things aren't null. So can also, it's also specifying a name index here on countries, which is nice. Yeah, makes sense. On the name, it's an index. So let's keep that in mind. How will people be sorting? Maybe by this, maybe by setting. Yeah, that makes sense. Say name and setting. But settings should be an enum. Doing the ones that are weird first. And it's going to be loot setting. I predict that this is going to be like a common filter, like just do this. But the cool thing with Turso and SQLite in general is that you can play with your schema a lot before you decide to push your migrations and run production, because it's just so fast to recreate your database from nothing. Yeah, I guess everything else is going to be just a text. So hook So JavaScript style here, I can still do this. If I want to snake case the columns, which is called common. Looks lower. Risk setting and tags. So we'll start with tags just being a string, even though I know that it will be an array of strings very soon. Maybe start as an array of strings and see what we're going to do next. Can we do array? Let's feel like probably not. Yeah, so let's start with a string. Cool. So we have that. Did this magically make our DB client know that we have this this schema? Who knows? Aha. There is a Drizzle config, yes. Maybe we need to specify where the schema is. And then maybe we'll put it there in the source directory. All right, let's go back to our loot repo, db loot repo. This db still it didn't magically get a loot table. Doesn't look like it. So that makes me think that we need a config, a Drizzle config. Great. So it all looks the same. I wonder if I need to do schema star. Not sure. So keep thinking about things on the fly. These things, the schema files, I will put in source lib tb after all. Server db, oh my god, so deep. And then in here, I'm gonna have a schema directory. That's insane. Hopefully not. And these guys, I'm gonna leave out there. So let's remember our package.json actually hit db local db. Database again. And now let's create our Drizzle config. So I think here should be able to say source lib db schema, and maybe it will figure out this directory. I don't think we need to do this, but maybe we do. I don't know. We'll find out. And that directory can be Drizzle, I guess. I imagine this is where it will be exporting stuff like the migrations we're going to be creating. And maybe here is where we need to specify like Turso or something. Maybe not. did I dream this up? Let's see, what are we doing in the other project? You can find literally Johnnify Premium. So what are we doing here? So we do specify Turso as a driver here. I didn't make this up, but they just don't have it over there. And it seems like it does need a star in the end. So nice to know. Could update the docs. Driver this, and then in credentials, you will find this in process env. I guess I named these a bit differently because they had different names in the documentation now. So let's remember to add this. In our schema. Yeah, I even forgot the server directory, so that's a good catch. And the credentials, why not make them in like this? We're using bun here, so it's bringing them in automatically, but with PNPM, I guess we'll need to do something else now. And I'm doing the sanity check here to error out if this is not set. But this is not how I actually call it. It's database, auth token, and database URL. Is this too many letters? Will this just be DB? I think so. So let's move things around again. All right, so we have the Drizzle config. Will this thing now magically know that our DB has a loop table? Guess not. There you go. This is where they saw the star type. Cool. So we've done this. What else? We want to like select many. We just needed to pass in this all along, so everything I did is irrelevant. But it's good because we're going to be pushing and pulling and migrating, so it's good to have the things in the correct directory. So all this needs is to say that we're going to do a select. GitHub Copilot made me panic a little bit with this. If we just want to select everything there, then we pass no param there, and then we say from where, but this is where you just pass in the table. So that's why you don't have to remember what did I name this table for, how it's named in the database. Just return this. And you're good to go. What does this return? I think this returns what this should want. It's thinking that many things are null, which is great. It means that there must be something like not null that we can pass. Like not null. Great. And they have a trick for TypeScript as well. we can specify our, we can magically have access to that type if we use an infer dollar type, something like that. Let's see. Not views, not migrations. Is it really not on the overview? So what am I thinking here? So let's see, customers table, they're saying that you can infer a select and you can infer an insert from this. And then you have your customer type based on that, which we may use in the future. So let's search for like infer to find how they actually call it in the docs. So that's the same one. Oh well. I guess the two things that I really want to do here is on this loop table, we can infer some types and export them. They may be useful soon. But I think this implies that ID will always be set, but everything else could be null. However, everything should actually be not null. So this is not null, this is not null, this is not null. Maybe tags. But yeah, for now, let's say that everything is not null. So now, if we go to our interface, this is happy because it knows that this returns exactly what our UI loot type is. But we can also not use this loot type anymore. I don't know. Nah, it makes sense to have it. Cool. So we've done that. We've played around a bit with our database schema. So this is a classic example of in Postgres, oh wait, you forgot to add not null, you forgot to add an index. It takes a bit of time to re-add them. Here, bam, you're done. And so we've kind of been doing these two. And now we do want to switch the database implementation. So instead of using the in-memory repo, let's see if it's just gonna work. We go to our hooks file and we're gonna say our loot repo is actually our DB loot repo. And what does everyone think? Will this work? I'm gonna save in 3, 2, 1, boom. Something went wrong. Oh well, it happens. What was the problem? Not so stable. Loot, of course, we've defined everything, but the database we are connecting to clearly doesn't have this table because we haven't migrated, we haven't done anything. So you can have like official migrations which have the database statement that you need to run to any database to get it to that state that you want, but Drizzle has the concept of push as well. So we will be generating a migration later when we're sure that we've defined and architected the table correctly, but they also have a push pull, what do they call it? Pull. So we want to use this thing from DrizzleKit. And I guess all we need to do is DrizzleKit push and then SQLite. Let's see. that script. All right, I think we didn't have the environment variables here. Great. So unfortunately, we're not using bun here. Maybe we will switch to bun, but without bun, nothing is reading our .env.local when we run this command. When you use SvelteKit, vtest is going to be reading this for us. So our real app will be working, is working. However, this command to actually connect to the database, so this one, it has this config, it's saying these are the credentials, but it's not reading them because we need to import something like .env, which reads our .env files. And what I like using is actually .env flow. Well, I like using neither. I prefer using bun, which just does it for us. But .env flow at least is going to try to read .local files as well without any extra configuration. So let's add it. Great. And now what this means is that we can run this in our script, in our config, Drizzle config. And now when we run the same command, dbpush, it should have the variables. And indeed it does. Great. So now if we refresh this, we have the tables. Great, it's working. However, no data. How do we get data in there? There is DrizzleKit also provides an interface as well. Doesn't it? UI interface. Drizzle Studio, there you go. So let's run, let's add it as another package. Call it GUI. And maybe another directory. My puppy is very cutely yipping and yapping as he's sleeping. I hope she's dreaming of running. She loves running. I love running databases, am I right? So now Drizzle has this studio thing that can run locally, and they even bother to make this a secure connection. It's kind of crazy. And we can see into our database tables and even add records, which is good. But hello. How are you doing? Setting fantasy. Thanks. Hello. Save the change. So the rows should be inserted. Guess not. I have found that the Drizzle Studio is it's a bit interesting, to put it mildly. We can also create this with SQL, like an insert statement here. Save. It's not really doing it. Yeah, but this reminds me that I don't want an incremental ID. was nothing. Maybe that was the problem, but I didn't have the incremental ID here. No, there. All right, so now it's happy. So now that we have this, we should have a very ugly row in the table. Indeed, we can prove that it works, but we don't, like, this is handy to just quickly check is your database in sync and stuff, but we'll ideally have a script to seed our database instead of doing this and taking so much time. And also, hello Bruno, nice to see you in the chat. Thank you very much for finding this content cool. I think we're doing cool stuff here and lots of cool tech in play. I forgot to even mention that recent news, Astro is providing its own DB now, working with Turso. So I was planning to do a stream with Turso and Drizzle for a few weeks now. I was planning for this stream, and like 2 days ago, Astro announced this, and they are also using Turso and Drizzle for their own stuff. So maybe in the future, we will be showing a version of this if you want to create like your own blog or a blog for your clients. If you want to create your own blog, Astro is a great choice. But the idea of us going with SvelteKit is that you can keep extending it into a more complicated app as well. But if you just want a blog, you can just use Astro. It's going to be handier. You can write everything in Markdown, worry about the content. But if you want to sell this, your services to a client, then you need to start interfacing with a CMS. And at that point, Astro is not going to be that pleasurable. But maybe now with what they've created with Astro DB, it is going to be quite pleasurable to work with. So we may have a look at that eventually. But we keep upgrading our SvelteKit skills for now, because Svelte remains my favorite UI framework for sure. You can use Svelte with Astro on the front end as well, of course. Anyway, enough rambling from now. Bruno also says, inspiring. You wanted to learn Svelte because of my videos. Oh, that's amazing. That's great. That's the prime reason why I do any video. It's when I think that some tech is cool and pleasurable and people should play around and investigate it and use it. They should see that, you know, it's possible. It's not that tricky. Like, demystify the tricky things and get you playing with cool stuff. And Svelte has been a revelation for quite a few years now. I enjoyed using it. I think one of my very first videos was like Svelte with VS Code, and then like Tailwind with Svelte, and never looked back. And yeah, so Turso, as it happens, it's the stock way high. People are loving Turso, and we'll indeed be doing more with it, even in this stream. Right, so we are reading from a database here. Problem, even with the handy like Drizzle UI editor here, I don't like using it. It's a bit inconvenient, so we'll be writing a seed script. But it's nice, and another reason for SQLite being really good for development. Like, I realize that I don't really want an incremental ID here. I do want a unique ID. I think that's good practice for anything. So how do we do that with Drizzle? Let's see. Do they have something? They must. So SQLite UID. And when it's default, then you can pass your own function. I guess that's fine. Does SvelteKit provide a unique ID function? Let's have a look. Hey, this one. So let's see if that's going to work. re-implementing a primary key. Maybe it's not available in SQLite, but we can just break it and restart it. So what do they claim? That we can provide a default function. Actually looks like this. And then we can do our crypto stuff here. But that's going to be text. All right. So now this text column, this is going to be a unique ID thanks to the crypto package, which should be available on the edge as well, which is great. What else do we need here? Maybe a created at column. And this trick. Indicators can be timestamps or timestamps in milliseconds, and they will be converted to date objects. So we can try that. Useful if we want to order by when they were recently created. So I guess we're bringing this in from Turso, right? From Drizzle ORM. Excellent. Something has a default, it will not be null, I imagine. But it can. So let's say not null. I guess you can pass in null. And that created that when we selected, it's going to be a string. Great. So I'm expecting an ISO date there. But actually, that's not what I want. It was a different thing. So we can make this be an integer column, right? An integer with mode timestamp. And now that becomes a date converted for us. Great. Beautiful. And it probably makes sense to do this index as well. Indexes, people can get too eager at preemptively creating them, premature optimizations. But hey, we do know that people will be searching by the name, they will be filtering by the setting if they want to see it as fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. And they'll probably want to sort by created. But that's the one where I wouldn't preemptively add. Maybe I shouldn't be adding it here. Because maybe nobody cares. Nobody wants to see like the latest additions here. Cool. So if I try, I think we may need to redo the UI. Let's try to push again, see what happens. So integer, this should be named actually, I created that. First things first, does this still work? Yes. Let's drop this record and try to push again. I think created that. I think that's something that we can resolve by resetting our database by deleting some folders. So this one, now I did split this one in half. So we can have the database running here, but first I want to remove the DB directory. Let's see. Yeah, we didn't have anything nice there. So let's remove that. And then start the database. Create a DB directory. So just remove the contents there. So the database is running again and can run the migrations now, and then it's happy. So that's something to keep in mind. Like you can keep tweaking the schema and doing that quick push to keep it in sync. But sometimes when you do things like change primary keys, then it may get confused. But it's SQLite, so remove the directory where you're keeping all your database stuff, and you're good to go. Like not this database table, definitely not. This one, which has your actual database in. So if we refresh here, we should have nothing again, but let's try to create something. Hello. Not great. And let's see if we get like a timestamp correctly and an ID correctly. Indeed, we get a unique ID. Created that didn't work. Ah, why? We even made it not be null. Was disappointing. We add like, if we say current timestamp here, will it magically do something? No. If we try to run some SQL and say update, nah, let's not do that. So this one, default didn't quite work. This is what we did. they just didn't like this. Is it because it's integer? Maybe. Maybe we don't want it to be a date. I guess the example is like this for a reason. I was imagining they're doing magic. So current timestamp in SQL should be the ISO style date. But I was imagining they were doing some magic to make this be the epoch time integer. But I guess not. So let's forget this ever happened. And do this instead. And I don't think this will actually change the column type, because I don't think that's possible in SQLite, unfortunately. And then it's going to be up to us. Like that's the problem, I guess. Then you can have like trash data here. Yeah, if you manage to put epoch time, then you're good. So maybe we don't want the current timestamp. Maybe we do want to keep this, but we want the default to be new date. And that will magically do what we want. What do you think about that? So yeah, let's delete the local one again. Let's find a better way to delete like all files in there, not directory. And now if we push our changes, that date trick must not like it. Good time. Oh, interesting. That should have worked. Because I shouldn't return it, right? When you want it to happen in runtime, at runtime, you need to do this, I guess. Just return it. Yeah, I think we got it. I think we got it. So let's refresh. Let's try one more time. Hello. Save. Null again. Why null? This is return a date. We're saying this shouldn't be null. Alright, in the spirit of not getting stuck here forever, let's go the string way and see if that works. So create that. It's going to be a text column. It's going to be created at. It's going to default to the current timestamp. And we're gonna stop the database from running again. We're gonna remove that directory again. We're gonna make that directory again. Restart the database. Push our local changes to the first database and try again. OBS has done something lately in the past few streams where it keeps sliding my desktops around, and from code going back here is tricky. I also don't see the enum there. But with this, the seed script, it should be easier. This one, default, save. Why? How? Don't get it. I don't get it, truly. I don't get it. Right, since I don't get it, I do prefer this version. So I'm gonna try one more time and then move on with my life. I'm not gonna try it live. Just remove, recreate, restart, push again. So thankfully, I won't be adding any records with this, the Drizzle helper. That's good. And I guess in the UI, I don't need ID and created at. So that's also good. But I guess we won't be showing this now. The no typos here, I think we're good to go. I think we're good to go to write in a handy seed script. So let's get to that. Like, I don't want to use this for anything other than quickly reading the records. Maybe not even for that. So how will we write a script? Where will we keep it? Don't really know. You can have like a scripts directory or something. Do we have a Drizzle directory? Did we say we have a Drizzle directory here? Server? No. Drizzle. We said that there is going to be a directory there for our migrations, so maybe use that one. Why not? Yeah, let's create a Drizzle directory and create a seed thing. Why not? And here, can we use our DB client too? Probably. So trying to help this code. Help me by importing this correctly. So import db from lib server db. Is it able to find this? From this, right? And we are exporting this. Is it because it's not in the source directory? Maybe. Let's put it in there. Let's see if it... Yeah, now it's magically able to find it. I guess in dsconfig, somewhere we're saying look into the source directory to do your thing, which is fair enough. Right, but now I need to go back to the config and say that actually this directory is in source Drizzle. Hopefully that's fine. Alright, so source Drizzle directory. Should I call this like seed.server.ts. You aren't supposed to use this in the app. So what's out? What can I do to make this more obvious? It shouldn't be run. I don't know. And since I don't know, I'll just keep going and see how can we insert records with Drizzle. Insert multiple rows, maybe even. Just pass an array. Just pass an array, mate, and you're good. Beautiful. So, what we actually need here will we be able to do this with top level await? We'll find out. So we need to pass in the loop table, I guess, here. I won't trust the Copilot. Like, Drizzle is too fresh, so GitHub Copilot is not that good. But you do give values, whatever you have there. In lib server repos loot targeted loot JSON. Great. So it should know this. Let's say as look array. Be happy. Cool. If we were using ban, once again, we would have top level await and the ability to run TypeScript pretty easily. But there is a package called TSX that has been getting very, very popular that I'm going to bring in and try to use now. So let's bring it in. And how do we run this file? Let's go to our packetization and have a ed seed. Why not? And say tsx source drizzle seed.ts. And let's see if that's going to work. All right, not too bad. Of course. So this is not running through SvelteKit now. So it cannot connect to the thing we want to connect, unfortunately. Almost worked. Almost worked. So what am I talking about? I'm saying that in this project, have our DB client, which is magically bringing in these URLs. Which is fair enough. We're bringing in these environment variables thanks to SvelteKit magic, but we don't have access to SvelteKit magic with our thing. So I think I will keep this out of the source folder. I was thinking that the SvelteKit magic is actually TypeScript magic, but I guess it's not. So let's move this back outside of this. But maybe not, because we will need access to like that repo. I'm not sure. So our seed thing will be trying to find this anyway. So maybe it needs to be there. Maybe we can create the client here and move on with your lives. Yeah, that's a good idea. So seed client. I guess it's gonna be the same thing that we did in our Drizzle config. We'll need to use totem flow. Bring in the environment variables. We won't be using this. We will be bringing in the loot table and the hard-coded loot. Great. If there is not the URL, we're screwed. Then we'll be doing the client creation again. Maybe we can call this like admin client, hoping that no one gets confused and actually uses this one. Script DB, let's call it script DB to make it obvious. And let's add a console info here. Emoji, seed emoji. All right, so will this work? Let's see. See it again. Nope. Created at? Created at should be unique. Who said this? Who said this lie? Absolute lie. Unique index. Jesus. So that's the problem. So these shouldn't be unique at all. I just want like a normal index. Not a constraint. This index. Maybe that was a problem. All right, so now I think even if we push, try to sync the changes, the constraints are not going to be removed. It says changes applied, but I'm not convinced. Like if I press it again, it does say not change detected, so maybe it works. So let's try to see it now. Oh, it works. All right, so this time the syncing worked. Amazing. Added 9 items, which does mean if we refresh now, with the server running, we're going to get 9 loot items. Amazing. Beautiful. And they're now in our database. We should be able to see them even here in the studio. Great. It does have the timestamps. You can see that they all happened like at the same time because we didn't loop through them. Amazing. And we could be using fake error for this, I guess. But no one liked it when I did it on that other SvelteKit stream and Next.js stream, so I'm not gonna use it just yet. We'll see. So we've managed to seed our database. So interestingly enough, let's try to run it again. It's gonna add 9 more items, so now we're gonna have even more. So that's something to double check. Just confirming that the timestamps do work. Somehow we made it work. But the thing to keep in mind is we have our seed script. Nothing is resetting the database just yet. So keep that in mind. When you have a seed script, sometimes you want it to reset the database first, and then it's gonna be adding items to it. So if you want to do that, you do it. Should we do that? We could delete everything. Just delete all the rows. So because that's probably what you want to do every time you seed, probably. Keep in mind, you may want, confirm script here. Like ideally, you do want like the connection. You're connecting to this database and you're about to delete everything. Do you want to do that? Not sure. Hello, Trevor. Thank you for your kind comment. Love doing these. So I am gonna add. So Tower says, especially love your Svelte 5 content since it's the future. Indeed, we're doing Svelte 5 today as well. Like we did a bit of like props. I asked if anyone wants to see a snippet, but no one said yes, so I just didn't do it. We can do a snippet here for each row. It could be a snippet instead of just having it in line. But hey, let me know if you want to see this and we'll figure it out together. So here I'm gonna add a to do. So here we can have like a confirmation step, but then, the script becomes a bit more complicated, like asking for input and yes, no, like there are libraries like Commander that you can bring in to make your own CLI too. You don't really want to do that. So, although with Bun, it's a bit easier to do. Maybe we'll be switching to Bun soon in this episode. Right. What else did I want to show here? I think that's it. I think now that we have the handy seed script, it does look like we haven't forgotten anything. Our loot does uppercase this, even though in theory that should never happen. So hard-coded loot. So just once, just to show it. Let's look at our seed stuff. So here we could be asking for something, but we won't be. And now everything's cool, everything's nice. We need to go to our table and double check our uppercase fantasy is now lowercase fantasy. We can have an enum somewhere for sure. And don't forget to capitalize. So the class here, capitalize like this. Sweet. And again, this is like the snippet point where each row could be a Svelte 5 snippet. Cool. So we think we have a good view of our database. I think we know that these are the columns that we want for now. Although maybe, yeah, let's say that this is what we want. I was thinking that the tags shouldn't be a tags table, could be a different table. Shouldn't be inside this table, this little table. They could be in their own table. We'll see. Let's create a migration, because you won't want to manually like do this scary like DB push thing to your staging and production databases. You'd rather have a migration where you can double check and see what are they actually doing there. And Drizzle does have that. And it's another command to run. We already have the config created, and we just need to run generate SQLite, I suppose. So let's go to our package.json again. This is the confusion of push and migrate kind of do a similar thing in the end. DB push tries to read whatever you have in your schemas. So it's going to be seeing what are you exporting in these files. Specifically, we're saying in source, lib, server, DB, schema, anything in there, it's going to be exporting things that are tables for you, SQLite tables in this case. And Drizzle is trying to figure out what are the differences from the database you're pointing into now to the one that you're claiming you have as you define these tables. With push, it will automatically try to make the changes happen for you, which is great for development. With migrate, it will write the SQL migration that you are able to run to get your database in that state. And that's what you need when you are talking to your staging or production database. You won't want to manually run the CLI and say, all right, now do your push magic, because maybe it's not going to work. You want to write a migration, review it, and then have a GitHub action, ideally, that runs any migrations that haven't already been run on that database. So that's what we'll be doing now. And all we need is to add a DB migrations or migrate. How do they call it? Generate. Let's call it generate. So this is like push is more like a sync, and generate is more like generate migrations, I guess. And we just want to run this. So this command, let's see what it's going to do for us. Create a new file. It has a cool name and a few numbers at the start to ensure the order of operations. And it should be where we specified, which is source Drizzle. Why did we put source Drizzle there? And because that's where we put the seed file as well. Sure. And it created this thing, this meta information, which helps it understand not whether they've run a migration or not, but what a migration looks like according to the SQL, as far as I understand. And you can double check here what is it doing. That is also a point where you may figure what you've done wrong. So I see that there is no default here or created that, which doesn't make sense to me. How does it work? I guess it's Drizzle itself, so that's how it works. So if we were doing the older type of default, it would be writing something else here, like date. I don't know what it would be writing, like current timestamp, I guess. But now the other way we define the default, it's going to do a runtime operation. So not in SQL. Interesting. Suspicious, but it's going to work. So yeah, in any case, this is a point to double check whether you've specified things correctly. We are creating our table like this. Everything shouldn't be null. Everything shouldn't be null. If you want to have like a draft state, then maybe things should be null, but I don't know. Maybe you don't. And we have these indexes as well. We're creating 3 indexes. Great. That's for sorting and filtering purposes, no unique indexes, nothing like that. Great. So now that we have a migration, we can actually run them. But to run them, you need a migrate file. Or similar, because much like the seed script, you're gonna specify what needs to happen there. So let's take inspiration from our seeding script. Oof, and saying that you want a multiple statements client here. Interesting. So that's good to know. And to specify the schema. All right, so let's do it like that, I suppose. So in Drizzle, let's create a script db.ts. Write it like this. But now, like, how would we get all the schema files? Don't like this. Don't like this at all. In the seed file, we are creating the client like this, which is fair enough. Can do the same things here. How am I running migrations in the other way, in this thing? I'm just creating the client, like, kinda naively, without passing the schema and trusting it's just gonna work. Sure. I'll believe that. So unlike what they're saying, like, these options don't seem to be needed. What did I copy? So instead of doing the collection like this, like on the other project, I'm just doing this once again. And it seems to work. Can I pass multiple statements here? It's not. Do I need it? I also guess not. maybe it's a MySQL thing. Anyway, we can just export the script DB here. My copying doesn't seem to be working. And now our seed script instead of doing all of that, it can be bringing in the script DB. And let's double check whether this still works. Let's give it a listen. Yeah, this works. You can see it's fast, which is amazing. And now that we have our script B, we want our migrate file too. And it claims it can be something like this. Ah, that's why it wants the connection to like close it, I guess. And migrations folder, it's in source Drizzle. I hope this is not relative to here, but I guess it's not, because they're claiming. They're not claiming anything. It's relative to what? This is relative to what? That's my question. We'll find out. Script B, that's what we want. Use that one. This one should be from SQLite. libSQL. Yeah, cool. And wait, script B, is there like a close? It's not. Oh well. Don't forget to close the connection, it says. Close the client. So let's call it script client. All right, so seed script done. Does this have any console logs? I'm not sure. Maybe this is the one that should have some console logs. So seeding works. Generate migrations works. We saw it. Now the question is, will our db migrate script work? can only imagine it will. Do we want more console logs? Will this find the correct directory? I can only imagine it's relative to where you run the script, so it should be fine. So let's delete our database here again. And rerun it. So now like it's crashing because it has no tables. Can we run our migrate script this time? .temp. See what? Oh, that's not how you do it. We copied the wrong thing. So I don't think we need to import this again, because we don't need environment variables here. We have them all here. Yeah. And that's where we're doing the .env flow stuff. So now it works, right? No logs. But we can see that the database is there. It just has nothing. And we can seed it and then get our stuff again. Perfect. So that's how we run the migrations. We do need some console logs, which I think that's good. Like if they have console logs, I guess you can, like if you're going to have console logs in your tool, you should have a way to silence them, disable them, not have it be verbose. Because maybe I want my own console logs. Here, let's say Drizzle, and it works. Oh well. But here, so why did I keep all of this in source directory? I guess because the idea is that this script needs like the dollar access, kinda. Fair enough. Doesn't really matter. Oof. Streaming continues, but recording has stopped because we've been already recording for 2 hours and a half. And I didn't delete enough streams. You know, we've been streaming for like 5 hours every time. Not that one. So let's recover some gigabytes. Especially with local SQLite. It's gonna eat some megabytes for sure. Right, so what was I saying? I was saying, is it worth it to put the Drizzle stuff inside the source directory and confuse people as to whether they should be hitting this or not? Not sure. But I was also saying, I definitely want console logs. Great. So now we can even try to run it again. We can run it as many times as we want, but I guess it's not actually going to run the migrations again. Maybe if we look here, it seems like we cannot see the secret table that I'm sure exists, that there must be like a secret migrations table in this database. That says, oh, we've run this migration and not that one. Oh well, doesn't really matter. So I was thinking, should this be in the source directory and potentially confuse people and have them use the script client somewhere they shouldn't be using it? Let's see if it works, if we do it, if we do pull it out. So the client needs nothing. The seed needs something. It needs to hunt down source, lib, server, blah, blah, blah. So I thought it would just work with TypeScript, but hey, I guess it doesn't. So migrate file needs nothing. This needs nothing. All good. Try the migrations again. Nope. Search for Drizzle. Hello, Christian. You're welcome. Thank you so much for all the emojis and all the nice comments. Let me know what you'd like to see next as well. So here we have our two scripts, and we can just say that they are in the Drizzle directory. Double check, migrate, runs again, great. Seeding, runs again, amazing. They're all here. Everyone's here. Great. Let's commit something. Okay, so if I was actually going to push this, it's not going to work because I'm not going to have a local database running there. SvelteKit and Supabase with Shadowcan or SatCN, super popular. People have been asking for SatCN for sure. So we're going to get there as well. Supabase will get there at some point as well. I did really want to give a different option with Turso and Drizzle today. I have had people that use Drizzle with Supabase, which to me sounds interesting because they do have a great client themselves. Supabase has a great client themselves. So why would you try to work around it and to work with Drizzle? But I may try that out as well. And Christian says, you're a beginner. It's been challenging, but my videos motivate you. That's amazing. That's very sweet to hear. I'm not a beginner, and still it can be challenging at times. It's just part of the game. You just need to start getting some W's, some wins, and then you at least reflect back. So, you know, when my migration script is not running or I cannot bring in environment variables, I'm like, yeah, there's been a time where I've managed to do this successfully and I feel a bit better. So yeah, step by step, you know, start doing your projects, start doing some things, and you'll be able to reflect on all the good things you've done and get over whatever is stumping you in the moment. And let me know if there is anything in particular stumping you, and I'll try my best to help. So what was I saying here? I was saying here that if we actually push this to production, everything's going to break because we're not talking to a database. A public database. So we do need to set up Turso, I suppose. Yeah. Local tails still running. Let's double check this. Yeah, I think it's fine. Not sure about this. like something in Safari for sure. De nada. I've been in Barcelona now for like almost 3 years, so I can understand gracias and de nada. I've also been in Brazil for a little bit, but then I get confused and I say obrigado. I forget everything. So yeah, all good. Maybe flaky times, but playwright will run a couple times. So what was I saying? I was saying that I am very keen to commit all of this work we've done. So I'm gonna do it, even though if I do incorrectly push, you were gonna get the error message. That's fine. And to database. Because next, what are we gonna do here? Chili. I love chili now. For sure. I think I've mentioned this stream before. I have been to Chile once, in between visiting Patagonia, like the glacier there. I had a day in Chile doing some hiking, and it was amazing actually, because you go from hiking in a very beautiful, diverse green rivers, like warm place, and then you are in a glacier like the next day. Like it's definitely a trip that I remember to this day. Not of course that all of Chile and all of Patagonia is like this, but it's the thing I remember from my travel there. All right, so we have this migration. We'll probably want a GitHub action as well to automatically run. And do they have something here? Maybe not. Maybe we can just run it every time. Where you run your migrations is another subject for debate, like who presses the button to run the migrations. I just say if you push to main and run the migrations every time, and there's a new migration, just run it. No harm in that. Some people would say, no, I want to clear this. I want a button in the UI that says, are you sure you want to run migrations? I don't know, not so sure. Some people would say that it shouldn't be the concern of the repository to run migrations. It should be the concern of a different service. I don't know, it's hazy. Like I just say, especially if you're doing a project like this, using a meta framework like SvelteKit, and you don't have like a monorepo or any other APIs you're using, push to main, have a GitHub action, just run the migrations, should work, should be fine, don't worry about it. But we'll only run it after we connect to Turso. So I think that makes sense. Let's connect to Turso finally. Let's have a database that we can connect with from the edge, from wherever our app is running, not just locally. And then we'll create a GitHub action to run this migration. So next up is the actual Turso stuff. Up to here, using Drizzle, even like the SQLite stuff, pretty much you can do the same things, connecting to Postgres or even Supabase, I'm sure, which is also Postgres. In MySQL, they have a few libraries there. Nothing much really Turso specific, even though in the config we are specifying the Turso driver here. I can only imagine this does things specifically when it knows it's supposed to connect to the edge. I'm not sure what those things would be, like short-lived connections, long-lived connections. I don't know. I'm not a DevOps guy. I am a backend guy, like, but I haven't looked into it, I guess. It must be doing some sort of magic here. I'm not going to try to guess. This is not an engineering interview. But even though we've passed this, I was trying to say that it doesn't really matter if we're using Turso or anything else. This is the point where we are committing to Turso, where we're going to create something. But again, their free plan has like 500 databases, so you're not committing that much, just to try things out. And since we have the CLI, we can just create a database. But since I'm on the paid plan, I'm gonna try to use one of their cool features, which is have different groups. So besides the default group, I think I'm gonna have like a live stream dev group for all my live stream dev databases, and a live stream group, live stream prod, for all the productions databases that we're using in our live streams. And that means that I can have their locations be dependent on what the project is. So for the ones for local development, for the staging environments, I don't need to replicate them across the world. Not really. I can just leave them in one place close to me, here close to Barcelona. I think they have Madrid as the closest one. So just have them there and it's fine. But for the production ones, for the live stream production ones, I can see where you guys are coming from. So like, oh, Chile, we need a replica there. What I do for my project, I look at the analytics. So let's have a look at the analytics actually, if there's anything here. Analytics brick. Is it activity? Is it not? Who knows? This project. It is this project. 100% we're hitting. We're killing it in performance. The real user experience off the charts. So what I often do is look at where you guys are coming from and make sure that I have replicas there. So I do have a replica in India, for example, and many other places according to what the traffic is. I'm not going to do an analytics deep dive, but that's the idea. You know your users are coming from specific places, spin up a replica database there. And then you're going to get to this great user experience. Because if they're coming like from China and you have it from all the way around the world, then the latency is going to be significantly bigger. And when you're using things like deploying to Vercel on the edge and tools like Turso, that's much easier than it used to be. I have been talking to some Turso devs and people as well, and they are saying that maybe Vercel is not the best tool, the best place to deploy projects that use Turso. I guess because they are using Fly behind the scenes, Fly.io, which similarly you can deploy your projects anywhere in the world and you can specify where they're going to be. So if you were deploying to Fly, Turso would be deploying the database exactly where Fly is, and then that's it, you're done. And you can use other Turso features like the embedded databases if you have long-lived servers instead of Edge or serverless functions that Vercel has. But Edge functions are so much faster, so I will need to benchmark this, like which results in better performance. Because with Vercel Edge, you can see, all right, it's gonna get closest to my users for sure. And then I need to have guessed the correct places to deploy Turso replicas for them. So you may be losing the exact spot there, but Edge functions are so fast that maybe it's faster. I don't know, I'll need to benchmark this and deep dive it. Anyway, what we were gonna do is create a new group and then create a new database there. Turso is super generous with how many databases you can create, so you can easily have dev database, staging database, and prod database. I think we'll just do 2. But first, let's create a group. So if I'm like, all right, it's time to make all of the database in this group be based in the United States because everyone's from there, or at least from North or South America, then it's going to happen more easily. Right, so not this, this group. Yes, it's just going to be create, isn't it? And am I logged in to the correct thing? Who knows? And the group I'm going to create is going to be streams dev, let's say. It knows my location, so it creates it in Madrid indeed, because that's the closest one to me currently. Great, created. And now I want to create a database, which I guess will be done with Turso b create root Goblin dev. And then I do need to pass the group, so that becomes like a big command. And I imagine it's going to give me a connection URL and an auth token or similar. So I shouldn't leak this. So I'm gonna try to slide it off screen, but I'm failing massively. My hands are too cold. We can do it. Almost there. Almost there. Ah, got it. Cool. So press that. It says creating the database. Great. It showed nothing. It showed how I can actually create a database cell to get into the database. Cool. But there is a different command to show the connection URL. And an even different command to create a token, which I guess is how they kind of ensure that you're not gonna accidentally leak it when you're streaming it. And if you do, you can reset it. So since we're here and I was in Vercel, let's go to the Loot Goblin project. Go to settings. Let's go to environment variables. And let's say that our preview and development, we want to add something. So we want to add DB URL, I guess. So this one, let's add these two. And this one is fine to see. But this one, which I'm gonna create now, I will try to hide as well. It's super long. So let's try. Even if I paste it, I think it's not gonna be visible. And if it is, I guess I'm gonna cycle it. But hey, let's do that. It was gonna be visible because the text field expands. Good to know. And I'm gonna do the same thing just for prod, because I'm gonna also create a database just for prod. So I'm gonna repeat the same steps and do Turso DB create Goblin without the /dev. You can do /prod, but it doesn't really matter. But first, I want to create my other group. I want to create group create streams. It's going to be Madrid again, but it could be anything else, as mentioned. Like check where the people that are watching now are coming from and create it there. And then I'm going to create the other database we'll use for production. And then I need to show the information of that database, copy the connection URL once again. I can leave it here. And create a new connection token. And let's gonna be transfer production. All right, cool. Final thing, I want to create a .env, so I'm gonna copy this. If there is a .env and a .env.local, SvelteKit is gonna read from .env.local. So I like to rename this to .back as well, and then it will read this. Anyway, what this is gonna do is we don't want this. Here's an app key. We're gonna add one. What it is gonna do is talk to the staging, let's say the staging one here. So let's also slide this to another window. Just for a moment. And make it talk to the development database. And I guess you could make it so you run the migrations even when it's not the main branch, but not sure. So actually. All right, so that should be good to go. Anything else from here? My terminal can come back, hopefully, and vessel can come back. Can double check here. So what I've done is have development and preview DB URL and DB auth token for local development. If I want to check what it was, I can double check here. And for preview balances with the GitHub and Vercel integration, I can easily have. And for production, we have again a DB URL and a DB auth token. A nice way to double check, like see if it works on your development or preview brands, especially when working with databases where if you do make a mistake, you may lose data and you really don't want to use real user data. So double check there in development and preview. If you leak something, like do it there. And then for production, do something else. Más español, entiendo español, pero no hablo. Entiendo más que hablo. Miguel in the chat. Cool. So with all of these done, Hono with SvelteKit. Question is, have I tried Hono with SvelteKit? The answer is no. Ooh, interesting. I'll have a read. Oh no, they ask for too much. I will have a read. The answer is no. Looks cool. So is it like contracts when you do fetch? I'll have a look. I will have a look. We've created like 1 million databases now. Question is, can we connect to them? I was saying that. Oh, I'll need to redo this just quickly. So we have, can't slide things correctly. We have our .env.local, but I want to start connecting to the Turso database. And for that, I can rename .env.local to be .env.local.back, for example. And I can have another one like .env.preview or something else. But now that it's not .env.local, SvelteKit is not going to read it. And it should connect to the Turso database. and that goes the same for our scripts. So let's see if that's true. What happened there? Something went wrong, interestingly enough. All right, so I think, yeah, we did connect to the Turso database, but it doesn't have the tables because no one has run migrations. Let's try to run them. Now, thanks to what we've done, npm run db migrate, or npm db migrate should run the migrations against the Turso database. Perfect. So that's talking to the Turso database, and then we can seed as well. And then this is for our real life database we can deploy there, and everything's gonna be nice and dandy. So question from Miguel, am I going to implement auth with this Turso database? Yes, we are. So I don't know if it's going to be this project. We'll transition. Authentication is a very important part, and it's like the next level up. First is static, mostly static website, the portfolio, or marketing one that we showed. This one is the one that is talking to the database, and maybe we will extend Loot Goblin, so you'll be able to sign up and like upvote or downvote or something, or it will be another project. But it's the evolution of this. I don't know what we will be doing, but we'll definitely be doing user accounts with Turso for sure. And if you're eager to see how they work, this is actually how they work with my own website, which I just had like 100%, and now it's like, oh, not working. What happened? Nothing. It all works. So this authentication solution, I'll say again, it is talking to Turso, and it does have auth with GitHub. So if you want to see how I've done it there, you can have a look at the code base, which unfortunately you need to be upsold and get Johnnify Premium to see it because it is a private code base. But there is a lot of code there. Keep in mind, this is SvelteKit 2, but Svelte 4 still. But for the authentication stuff, it doesn't matter because it's SvelteKit 2. So, long story short, we are gonna be showing auth with Turso for sure. I don't know if I'll be using auth.js again or Lucia. If you have a preference, please let me know. But the question is, will it be in Loot Goblin? I'm not sure. I'll need to think about that. The other app idea I have is to have like a random party selector, and then you can submit. It's another RPG thing. You can have like a roulette of party members you want to play with for Final Fantasy or Baldur's Gate or whatever else, because I always go with my favorites. And if I had a random tool, that'd be cool to use. But if you do have user accounts, you can have people submitting their favorite party setups, their favorite builds, that sort of thing. Anyway, we'll see. Easily with Loot Goblin, you can have people submitting their own like suggested loot. You can have upvotes, downvotes. So maybe that's the transition we'll be doing. I'll be thinking about it for sure. Auth is important. We'll be getting into it and doing more with tests. How do you test auth? Because not lots of people are doing that. I'm thinking of Lucia as well as the auth solution. We'll see. I'll keep investigating. All right. So. Turso, do you have a dashboard? Is the question. I think the answer is yes. So now, oh, interestingly enough, here's the groups. We created the streams group, which just does one in Madrid. It automatically did that and has no replicas. And the streams group, which is the same, But you'll notice that the dev1 has read the rows a few times and has written the rows a few times. That's like, how many times did we run the... that must be migration information, I'm sure. But to add a replica, it's as easy as to just click here and like select position. I wish you could do like a map, because sometimes you know the place and it's like maybe I know I want to add one in Brazil, and instead of scrolling through like 25 options, I need to know that it's like, oh, it's Sao Paulo, Brazil, or Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Anyway, like a small problem. Doesn't really matter. We'll be doing that soon for the primary one. I guess this has proven that this is a real database we're talking to. And we can look at the tables here, I suppose. That kind of looks like... I was going to say this looks like Drizzle Studio, and indeed, it is Drizzle Studio. It looks like it kept the filters from the last time I used it. So no customers table here. Ah, there is a Drizzle migrations here. Indeed. Cool. All right. UX of the viewer, not the best one in the world. But it's something. So you can see here, you can edit it inline. Not too bad. Decent. You could edit things here yourself. If you use this, you would never pass this to your client to use as a CRM, though. Too scary. Anyway, the thing here is that we had to manually run a migration. So I think all that's left is to create a GitHub action to automatically run it. How do we do that? We have a few GitHub actions already, so let's see if we can take inspiration from anyone. Maybe the Vitus one, because it does run against the main branch. Either one of those two would work. So let's copy this one. So migrate production DB. So my thinking is the dev one is also the previous staging one. You are responsible for pressing the button and doing it. Why not? And then it installs PNPM. And I don't think we will be using the Turso CLI. So all we need is to run our migrate thing. But that's not all. I'll need to pass environment variables here as well. So here we do just want to do db migrate, but we need some environment variables, which, for example, we are passing in our player test. And what we'll want is db URL and db auth something. db auth string, whatever. I will find that out. But it's gonna be a GitHub secret, so we're gonna find out how those work as well. So GitHub secrets in actions. It's telling us how to add them. And this is how we use them. And because I do have the GitHub VS Code extension, it does know that this secret doesn't exist, which is cool. But I guess this is like public. So it can't just be like a variable. And we can mention the name of the database here too. Just to double check. So this may be DB auth token. My face kind of in the way, but I don't think it matters that much. So how do we add these and stop this from flipping out? We go to GitHub where our project lives. And there we can go to secrets and settings, secrets and variables, actions, and add a new repository variable, which is going to be db URL. And then a repository secret, which is going to be db auth token or whatever else it's going to be. And you guessed it, I'll have to take things from you just for a moment. Yet again. How did we leave this one hanging? All right, so here, I guess I can check the Vercel dashboard. I have the db URL indeed here, copy, paste. And now I'm going to secrets, doing new repository secret, and I'm going to be copy and pasting the db auth token. Make sure to copy the name as well. And now, after a little while, even my handy VS Code should be able to see what's happening, to know that these are now defined. Maybe if I reload the window, it will recheck. Yeah, well, if I highlight it shows it. I can only imagine that if you highlight a secret, it doesn't give you the value, hopefully. But hey. So yeah, this can be public. This is cool because you can double check it. I think that's all we need to do. Like npm install, and that's just gonna work. So automation. Migrate DB. Prod DB. So let's do that. Let's push both and see what's gonna happen. And we're gonna be right back. And we're back. So, did this run? Migrate production DB says it run. Migration's complete. Great. So now, if we go to loot Goblin, we should have the new loot tables thing. Great. Press it. Amazing. No data because we haven't seeded, but we can seed if we have our seed script and have our .temp variables point to this one. So automation for migration complete. Quite cool, if you ask me. And then is the point that I would be looking to the analytics to double check. Where should I be adding database replicas? The problem with databases very often is that if you can write too many of them, then you have potentially a race condition. Anyway, there are many problems with having many potential databases you can write to, but usually you read more than you write. So you can more easily have many replica databases that just read data of your database. Then in these cases, you may have the problems of like eventual consistency, but nothing that should scare us at this point. So your source of truth database, like just got a write, so it has the latest data. How quickly does that get replicated down to your replicated databases? That can be a problem, but with an SQLite, I guess, and what they're doing with Turso, it shouldn't be something noticeable. Right. So, what should we do next? GitHub action automatically run this. We did it. We can do another migration to have a tag be in its own table, which may help with filtering. I'm not sure, and we can talk about how to test this, and we can have like skeleton UI, I guess, because this loot table is not great. We can stream the data, or maybe we can leave it for the next episode, since we have been doing this for 3 hours, and we can come back with a vengeance next time. So just to talk about how to test this, there are many ways to test this. One of them would be, especially since we're going to be doing search and pagination next, I think that'd be a better point to show this. But we have our database implementation of our interface. So we have our loot DB loot repo. And we could have a v-test test that checks that all of these methods, I guess it's just one now, is implemented correctly. Especially when we add filtering, that's going to be more important. But in the v-test test, we could be seeding our database and we are in control of the data. And then we can be like, all right, I seeded 30 items. I expect getAll to give me 30 items. And if the order is important, then you can check the order of things, that the content is correct, that sort of thing. When we do filtering, we will be seeding data again, but maybe have like 15 fantasy ones, 15 sci-fi ones, and then the filter is that I'm able to filter by setting, and then your test is I expect to only see 15 items and that every one of them will have a setting of sci-fi. Going through 15 rows in v-test, no problem. You can do this very well, and you have the confidence that whatever you're doing here with Drizzle is correct. You are correctly applying filters. And another thing that you would do in that sort of more unit contract test is that you could explicitly be checking that you are selecting only the rows that you need or the columns that you need. So I don't need ID here, I don't need created at. So you could be checking that you're not getting IDs and created at back. You're only getting the related fields. Maybe that's too much of an implementation detail, especially since it's a backend to backend operation, the user won't really know a difference. But since we're deploying to Vercel Edge and it's talking to like the Turso database somewhere else, then the latency there can make a difference. So not sure. Maybe you would want to test for that. In this case, where it's like 8 columns versus 9 or 10, doesn't really matter. But if it's you only need 2 columns and this table has like 15, then yeah, I would have a test that checks that sort of thing. Because Vitest is great, and doing those sorts of tests with Vitest is good because they are like implementation detail, performance, sanity checks, like how expensive are the operations, both in time cost and money. Because I do imagine that at some point Turso is like you're reading too much data. While the player tests, which are all about what the user sees, the user doesn't really care if the backend has requested too much data, if the frontend is quick to load, and the user doesn't care if they cannot see the created data or something like that. You wouldn't be testing for this on the frontend. And if you were, like the test would take too long. Browser tests for that sort of thing would be taking a decent amount of time, even though Playwright is quite fast. You wouldn't be testing like that sort of implementation detail, especially there. The thing is, we need to be writing some methods to see their database first, and then assert that the things that the user sees are correct. So in both cases, we would be running a seeding script and then saying, I expect that these items will be visible, 15 rows will be visible, that sort of thing, which will be fun to do. I think it will be more fun to do once we have the search and destination stuff done. So we'll probably not do them today and probably call it a day. So this is going to be the call to talk more. This is the call for the chat to ask me more questions about what they liked about today, what they want to see next, what should we be diving further into. Should we be doing the many-to-many thing, like migrating to another table? Maybe we should. Should we do the kind of skeleton UI? Let's do that. Well, I give some time for the chat to think. So maybe we can stream this. So now we are talking to Turso, the development database, and you can see it's not like instant anymore, like, but not that much. Like it's essentially instant actually. So that's impressively fast. So yeah, not sure if we would be gaining that much by streaming the data, but maybe we'll do it anyway. Let's see, what does today's UI have for skeleton? Like nothing too fun, I guess. We can have a skeleton row. Copied the wrong one. Ah, maybe it's correct, actually. Thinking too much about this. Right, so I want this to self-close and have like a class like 8.6. Or maybe have nothing. And let's render it here. render a few. And I think we just add like the skeleton thing. Too late. It's just about see it. So what else is different here? Is it these that have like more space, more padding? Unclear. There's any padding doesn't seem to work here. Maybe each one should actually have a div. All right, so that looks kinda nicer. But the first one should be a bit different. Of course, when we don't have data, then we won't know how long this should be. So maybe that's a bit more complicated. So this one. Definitely the CSS until section officially. Right, can I get this like higher? Yeah, so that looks kind of nice. And this one. Right, so that one looks kind of nice, and then each one of those, maybe now we can have like a snippet, maybe not. It doesn't look too bad. my items. Two lines is fine. Yeah, let's show some snippets, I'd say. Let's have this be a snippet. Snippets. Let's create a text row, I guess. Text nothing. And then it's this. And then, yes, we just add render text row. And this looks the same, but we can reuse it for the mechanics highlight and for the aesthetics and for the lore and for the risk. But not for the setting or tags. What did we forget? So all but the last two, right? So how many do we need? 5. So that looked correct to me. It's like it's rendering it to the same DD. So I don't particularly get. So this is fine. Rendering the snippet here. Also fine. Is it that I need to make this a div inside of TD? Once again. I'm asking that was yes. Yeah, okay. They got me again. 3 more. Doesn't look like the most beautiful thing in the world, but it's something. And for this one, I guess you can have the snippet, like say how many lines it is. If you really want to. All right, skeleton UI is in there. You can't really see it on dark mode. We need something else. Can you color the skeleton? Probably not. Yeah, not too bad. I'd say it kind of looks good, to be honest. Decent, I dare say. All right, so we have that. Why do we have this? We don't want to actually render the skeleton rows like this. We only want to render it when the data is loading. So maybe we can show another trick. How to stream data. So if we don't await this, then SvelteKit is going to keep this as a promise now. And we're going to say that actually this is a promise of loot. Therefore, we need to await then. So await the loot, then items, while we await, we render the skeleton rows. After we've done this, for each resolved items. So it's so fast, you don't really see the UI, which may be kind of annoying. But in case it takes a while, it's fine. This is something where I think React by default and the boundaries that they have like a threshold check, like they wait 100 seconds or something before before they render the skeleton UI or the loading UI that you've specified. And if they do get the data in time, they won't show it at all. The skeleton UI will just jump straight to the resolved one, which I guess is not happening here. You need to manually do it, which is fair enough. Sometimes it's fun to manually do things. The other thing we wanted to do is, if you have no data, what should you show? I guess we can nest an if. There's more than 0, then do this. Else. Oh, that's clever. No loot found. Interesting. Why is this still rendered? And MSW stuff. So we should have shown. we have, without this if, it just works. Yeah? No. Oh, that's kind of interesting. What did we mess up? So this works. If this and if doesn't work. So we must have done something spicy there. A regular if. So the moment I try to do this, it flips out. And I don't understand why. Oh, why is this burden? Crazy. So autocomplete, like when I did the result thing, it tried to do something crazy. That was the problem. And that was very hard to find. Right, so else if cool. Let's say less than 0 just to look at what we're showing here. What's this supposed to be? Text center no loot found. Is it appearing like here? Lol. So no, text center, no thanks. Cool. All right, I think we can push this and then talk about more stuff. We've shown streaming stuff, skeleton UI and placeholder UI. And snippets. Kind of sweet. So, if you're eagle-eyed, you will have seen that our dev server is spinning up mock service worker and is saying that you're talking to this URL and you haven't set up a handler here. What's that about? To me, that's fine. This is mock service worker seeing that our backend is trying to talk to our Turso database and being like, wait a minute, like that one should be handled by me. But since this is expected, we can actually let this request pass through. So we should open our handlers file. And just in the index one, just create db we have like a Turso one? Nah, it's fine. And it's a post request, I think, every time. Is another way with the MSW. I guess you could be intercepting this and actually talking to your local database, but it wouldn't make sense. You just use environment variables to talk to your local database. Here, let's just return pass through or something. Let's see. Let's return it. All right, so what do we want to let go? I guess it's gonna be DB URL. So now MSW is not complaining because we're explicitly saying that the Turso stuff, just let them pass through. Just let them talk to Turso. If you don't want to talk to Turso, you want to talk to the local database, then you need to update your totem. That's how that works. Right. Anything else? Maybe I will add them to a different file. Clear enough. Still work. Previous episode we did a lot with MSW and mocks. Shouldn't affect development. What else? I think this is gonna be it for today. I want to think how tags are gonna be working. Maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah, I think I'll show tags in another episode. It's gonna be a many thing where each loot can have many tags. Tag can have many loot, a lot of loot that it's associated with, and therefore you need 3 tables. You want the loot table, you want the tags table, and you want the pivot table, the loot to tags table. And we're gonna be creating all of these. Maybe they're gonna still be on that same one loot file because they're all related. Like the concern is like how the loot works, and the tags only exist in regards to the loot. So I think that'd be fine. And yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it for today. I think that is it for today. We will be talking more about this in the future. We have these clients here. So this URL either points to Turso or points to localhost. There are ways to make this point to a file, but we'll see how that would work in regards to our tests. To do the scenarios that we talked about, where we see the database and we see that, oh, the only things returned by this method are the 15 out of 30 items because I'm searching with this filter. Some contract testing like that. All right, once again, it's been a pleasure. Hope you had a great Friday so far, and it's gonna get even more amazing and an even more amazing weekend coming up. I'll see you all on Tuesday. Let me know on Discord what you'd like to see next. Let me know if you want to know more about Astro as well, because we do have this series to keep progressing with. We have the next series where we'll be doing authentication as well with SvelteKit. But maybe after that, we'll have a look at Astro yet again. It does help look at other frameworks and see what they're doing, because good ideas get passed around and get fine-tuned, and everything becomes even better in the end. So I'd be interested to having a look, but most of all, I want to show things that are helpful to you. So if you directly ask me for something, I will likely cover it. Cool. Thanks everyone. Have lovely days and lovely lives. I'll see you around.